maybe he has to get up to that, work up to that level to be focused, and to learn how to adapt and not have to hyper focus so much for a math test. Maybe that's a skill he will need to adapt to, and DSPS or the health center could help him with that. But it's kind of like whisper in their ear, plant a seed, see if they're open to it. That's all you can do. I mean, that's all I would do. I've had students one student in particular who had taken Math 095, the equivalent back at East Los Angeles College, 3 times, didn't pass it, took it at another district, didn't pass it, 4 semesters worth. I was like, okay, so what are you doing? He named everything in the book he's done, paid tutors, regular tutors, everything. I'm like, okay, I think it's safe to say there's something else going on if you're doing everything in the book and you've taken this class 3 times plus 1 and you're still not passing it. And I get it, it was the same thing. I get it, and when we talk about it, I go to the test. After a certain time limit has passed, I don't remember it anymore. And then I'll go back to it, yeah, I get it. And it's like I don't have that memory lapse. If it's past 2 weeks, it's gone. And I talked about the DSPS. No, I don't want to be labeled. There's nothing wrong with me. Very, very defensive. And for somehow I convinced him, maybe there's something going on. And I walked him over. Obviously there was something going on, and they relieved that transfer requirement. They left, okay, you want to take Math 102, you can go transfer and you can take Math 102 however long it takes you at Cal State Long Beach. And they worked with them to be able to take a test every 2 weeks because of that memory condition he had. So there are possibilities, and I think the student education system is very, very understanding about certain things. And it's not for the general public. You have to really find out about these things. Not everybody knows about that. It's just the people that it affects. But if you can document it, you can usually get a waiver or some type of special privilege to extend those transfer applications or certain classes. But it's really got to be up to the person, because if they're not willing to do it, I'm not going to force anybody to do it. And it's tough. But nudge them might take a couple times, see if they're open to it. That's pretty much it.
And sometimes in the long term, maybe it'll click, but at least you planted that. Brian, did you have a comment?
You covered really a lot of my concerns. I was just concerned about us quickly, sending somebody to a place maybe they didn't need to go to, because I know that in a lot of the STEM fields, you don't want to put yourself in that position where you're putting yourself on a crutch if you don't need to.
What do you mean?
Well, if I know a lot when I've worked at the tutoring center for about 2.5 years there, and most of the people that come in there, they just haven't put the time into it. It's not so much of I don't get it or I'm bad at math, but these are a lot of the things that we associate with not getting the right answers. And so, I've seen a lot of people that struggle, and then when they all of a sudden they just start working hard, maybe they don't have they have a lighter semester, and they're an A student, And I'm just saying, if like I said, he covered a lot of it. I would feel more comfortable just sending people to him, because he could probably filter them out better, as opposed to if I walked them over to DSPS and they said, well, maybe I do have a problem, and then they kind of put them, they embrace the system. It takes them from being as competitive as they were if it's not a serious issue. But like I said, you guys talked a lot about
careful about test anxiety.
Yeah.
Like those things prevent us from getting a grade. So how do we deal with that? We need coaches.
Can I ask a kind of a controversial question? I don't know if we have the answer or not, but how does DSPS look on the transcript? If you're getting to an impacted program, do you ever think about that?
I don't believe there's anything on your transcript that says DSPS or anything like that. No, it doesn't affect you at all. It's just certain transfer requirements. They can lift them, saying, okay, he has this issue or she has this issue, and they've done this, all documented. And they'll lift the requirement, no problem.
Personal information.
Yeah.
Nobody can. That's too personal. So
that would be my one worry.
Even going to the student health service. Anything that has to do unrelated to a grade, that's your personal information. So. And it
wouldn't, your regular records you wouldn't see that at all. Yeah.
If it were a STEM field or an impacted major, usually they wouldn't lift any requirements off there, right? It's not like they can say, oh, okay, your DSPS will lift the requirement of math if you're going into
Right.
certain fields. You need that.
No, you still would do it.
Right?
I know someone, she's bipolar and then she's got ADD, so she's got it really handled, and she's trying to get into vet school, so she's got all these really hard prereqs, and she just has a hard time focusing sometimes. So because she works with DSPS, and they just fix her like testing schedule. So like when she goes to the center and takes tests there instead of in the class. So they work with you like to kind of just depend what you need.
A lot of times there's a tutor, a lot of times there's an
Yeah.
interpreter, a lot of times you'll get certain visual aids. I mean, there's certain students at Golden West College, I send them all my PowerPoints, I send them all just specific stuff through, it's called the ACE Center, which is the same type of thing as DSPS type of situation. And they just get any type of specific need they have, it's addressed. So they're not, it's kind of like, if you, I don't know, had to take your driving test with one eye or something, it's not your fault. So if they helped you out with another person,
This with one eye.
it'd be hard, So basically they're just there to assist anywhere they can. But it doesn't reflect on any type of transcript or anything like that. Nothing's taken off. You're still going to have to do the math class or the science class. Maybe, like I said, the transfer requirement based on one class. All the classes are done. You have to take this one class. That, they would lift that and let you transfer. And, I mean, he still has to pass it to graduate, yes. But at least he isn't held back in his whole progress as a student for one class,
I know one of the things, when I was a student here, I was a note taker for people in class, and you get priority registration. Maybe he needs to focus on the instructor talking and have somebody take notes, and that person takes notes, but DSPS gives special paper, it's NCR paper, and so the first copy always stays with you, and the second copy could go to him so that he can focus on the teacher presenting the material and just listen and absorb, and that could help him too. It's not labeling him, it's helping him be able to focus on what the instructor's saying, because I even get tied up in my notes and I miss something the instructor says. So I have a little tape recorder that I tape mine and play back and fill in, but that's the student I've become. But when I was here, I did that for a lot of military personnel because they need to see it. Because a lot of stuff that they do is hands-on. And so, that's something that you could tell them that, I know this service is here, but you have to go through DSPNS, and they'll find somebody right in the class, and they'll offer that person priority registration to take really good notes for you. And maybe that might help with you hearing the material more instead of, getting stuck on it and then missing what the teacher may be saying. It's a really great service.
Yeah,
And
so-
free.
Yeah, so go ahead and keep that in mind. So there's so many services that even for us, like in the STEM fields, we get frustrated, we get tired, we want to give up. Sometimes you just need to go talk to somebody who's not in your circle, right? Because you don't want to put face for whatever reason. So you need some coaching. You're not supposed to do it alone. And we often get into that point where it's like, oh my gosh, I just want to give up. And just that feeling, you need just somebody who is an expert who can help you. Because you're going to see that often, right? Like, we're all in STEM fields, you'll see it in every step of the way. So managing that helps, right, even for yourself. So, sometimes you can role model that. It's like, I've been to so-and-so, and that helps me. And maybe you want to test it out to see how that works. And by you having those services, then you know more about it. Then you can just really say, how do I say this to this person? And sometimes that's probably what helps a lot. All right, we need to move on. This is a good conversation. I think Agustin and Jeanette and Sergio. No, wait, Gilbert. Right? I think you guys are the last three. So, what's going well and what's not? So, who wants to volunteer first? Who's inspired to talk? And give some segue. All right, good.
Going well, so getting a lot more students. I've noticed a change since I started, like before class starts, like I'll get there like 15 minutes before the professor gets there, because the professor gets there like sometime late. So I'll show up like 15 minutes before, and then like I'll ask, do you guys have any homework questions? And then some do, so then we'll go on the board, and like we'll do it in the front, so the rest of the students are looking. So then that help, because then like they see how I work, so then I got more people for assign. What's not going well, it's during my sessions, I do have a student with a disability. It's kind of hard for him to understand like what he's saying, and like it takes him a really long time to write a problem. So by the time he's writing the problem, everybody else is done, like including with drafts and stuff. So sometimes I've noticed that the students don't want to like pair up with him. So what I've done is like I go over with him, so like I'm like okay, like we're partners, and he likes it because he's like, oh, I'm working with the teacher, so he likes it. But the same way, like I don't like if when I'm not in class, like I'm not gonna be able to answer his questions. So like I want him to get comfortable with other students to ask questions, but like I don't know how to deal with that. Like if the students don't want to work with him, you know. So
What do you guys think? Think of yourselves like when you see somebody right, in your class and somebody has some disability of some sort. Could you elaborate on the kind of disabilities so that we could all imagine?
okay, I noticed that.
Is it a speech?
Yeah, speech and with writing, it's more hard to write. And I think it's just like but I think they're just judging by how he looks.
Okay.
So because he also has a cane, so it's kind of probably hard for him to walk too. So I think it's just all these factors that like probably like they're like going on like I don't want to grow.
Okay.
So I think maybe that's why.
So imagine you have that kind of class mirroring, and you see everybody else not wanting to be. I mean, the empathy that you want to have is like pair up with that person. But how do you get everybody else motivated to join with that person, right? Because that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. Because you're almost saying that, should I sacrifice part of my education in this SI session or in class to help this person or to be this person's partner? That's, that's heavy. I mean, who's going to sacrifice?
That's an interesting thought.
But how great would it be to see them succeed and know that you had a part in helping somebody, one, become a better student, two, lending a helping hand, being the bigger person. I mean,
Well, that's why it is tough. I see why. Because, yeah, I think you do want to be that person. But, I know personally, like, I'm sure everybody in this room, we all know how to be good, successful students. So I'm pretty sure everybody here would be that bigger person. But not everybody is where we're at. So they're probably, if I'm putting myself in the shoes of another student in that class, then I'm probably not gonna wanna join up with that person. No, I need to get this, I need to make sure I get this, right? So it's.
I'm sorry, I can see myself doing it once or twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I would do it, because I'm a good student and I can get good grades, I know how to get good grades, I don't, but before I was this version of me, I would have been like, nah, I'm sorry, I need to get this.
have you guys never shared with anybody and said that to really get the material is to tutor somebody else?
I mean, yeah, I kind of know that now, yeah.
Right, but the idea is, I think Ivan's point is pretty well taken because, Joseph's, because you want to get, we're all selfish. We're all selfish. That's a reality. And we got to be selfish because whose grade is it? Yours, not anybody else. So that's a good point. So we're kind of looking at the challenges.
That's where, as the SI leader, you kind of assess the group, and you kind of filter out the people with the mindset Ivan talked about versus the people with the mindset Joseph talked about. And you're gonna now you have a pool of people that you can kind of pair that person up with. And you don't wanna pair them up with the same person all the time, because then, yeah, they're gonna get burnt out. So just kind of be aware of that and find out who's gonna be willing, because there's gonna be a lot of people that look at it as an opportunity to help someone. And there's gonna be other people where, you know what, this is hard enough, I can't. I need to learn this stuff. And
more confident students.
Yeah.
at the same time, you don't want to force anybody to be his partner, because then you're going to have I go time in there.
Exactly, and it's a case by case, and it's difficult, there's no like right or wrong answer, there's no absolute answer to that, it's just.
What do you think, Jeanette?
Well, I noticed, like, yeah, there was a student, like, he's gone to online session, so it's only been them two. It's always been, that person always goes and this student. So it's them two always going. So, what I've noticed is, what I've tried, kind of, so he doesn't feel bad because it takes him a really long time. It's like, okay, Roland, write the problem down and you guys are gonna explain it to each other. So I think it's better for him to talk instead of write. So that's one of the things I tried, but I do try to change partners, so probably there's only like 2 choices I have, plus myself, so we're 3. So.
And that's a good point. You want to highlight their strengths, right? Like we always want to highlight strengths,
Oh, yeah.
and they got to have some strengths. I mean, we all have some strengths and weaknesses, and it could be that so those 2 strategies are very good. And I was just gonna say, in terms of playing it by ear, like you don't want to play it by ear too much. If that's consistent, then you know who to pick and who to do. And like, literally going there with an activity. Sometimes giving a harder problem to those like the students that are like give them a really hard problem so that it's difficult for them, so that they can see how difficult it could be that they don't get to the point, and that you level off the other person too, right? So that it's a perception thing. Like we're all in that perception, we're all in the same playing field, and that could help. That way they're not, shunning the other person just because you didn't get it, So, Brian, did you have any?
I was just gonna say, something about what you're saying, take away if you could take away the writing aspect of it, or maybe, but just if, on top of that, just like she said, if you have 2 or 3 problems that are prepared for them to all be on the board, then you can work at his pace and they work at theirs on the group work at least, and you can spend more time.
From my understanding, is it just a writing problem, it sounds like?
And speech.
And, okay, because I would think maybe like, kind of print out like an outline of the problem, so he doesn't have to do as much writing, he just kind of more of a fill in the
So
blank.
what I noticed is that he likes to do on the board. Like he doesn't want to sit down. He rather be on the board, which is good because I think he's learning more on the board. So I've done that, give him handouts, but he just wants to do on the board, which is fine. So I just give him to do it at his own pace.
But yeah, I think that he needs to be leveled, like, so that he's not shunned away. And so, yeah. And what I would suggest too, go to the DSPS services. The people that are in there, they're so helpful. And you say, could you give me some ideas of how to like help this person? And this is go to everybody, by the way. They're really helpful. Like I had a meeting with one person that was, really, you do all of that, you know all of that, and you don't know anything. And so they're really willing to help. I mean, that's their job. And
Maybe
they're
we could
really
have
happy
them
to do their job.
Do
So,
a presentation here.
yeah, we should do something like that. Did you have?
Oh, no.
All right. Let's see. Gilbert and Anderson. Did you
Okay.
What's going well and not?
What's going well is the students that are consistently attending, and even the ones that kind of like are semi-consistently attending. I see significant growth in them as students. And overall attendance is still a little weak. So, I mean, it's kind of difficult because the class already has, it's a math 265, so it's one of the last math classes you can take here. So a handful of those, a good chunk of those students are already successful students on their own. And they don't even want to study in groups, let alone go to an SI session. And then you got your other part of people that just, even if they're not good students, they still just don't want to go to that kind of stuff. So they've been scared. I kind of seen what, the grades are for them. They know I'm available. There was now that the semester's progressing and they're seeing, oh crap, this isn't like the older math classes where I just start trying halfway through the semester and get it. Because this is more based on terms. So I've seen a big rise in my in my attendance since like after test 1, test 2, it's significantly increasing. So I see the attendance doing, I see it kind of fixing itself, but I also took the initiative to switch one of my sessions to my office hours because I have pretty much the same 2 students that consistently go on my Thursday night, but Monday during the day on my office hours, I have like 10 people. So I'm like, okay, well, how about I switch the 2 that I work with on Thursday, I'll keep those office hours the same hours for them. And because I see like a phenomenal increase in their students. I don't. So
We're gonna document
so
that.
I really don't want to like take that away from them. They really enjoy working with me. We have a lot. We discuss. We more discuss the class and how to be a better student and how to approach the class than actually work on problems. And that's what's most beneficial because then they know. I don't want it to be a place where they just go, oh, it's 2 hours to go do homework. I want it to be a place where they get mentored, so that way on the weekend they know, oh yeah, I don't have a weekend, I'm a student, I gotta study. So flipping where office hours is kind of more, it's a little more late, it's a little weird because you got office hours, you can't structure, you can't really structure it the same as a session. So it's kind of more of almost a tutoring kind of thing. So, but once it becomes a formal session, now I can take more command and kind of imply what I've been doing with the people in the sessions on this group of 8 or 10 that got scared because they were being lazy the first half of the semester. So that's kind of, I guess.
Should we call on Steve? Steve.
Hi.
Hello. Agustin.
Well, my students, they really like to participate on the board, like they don't mind.
You have a higher math, right?
No, 095.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So for the review for the second test, I created a game. Well, I named it "Who Wants to Be a Mathematician."
That's awesome.
Basically what I did, I did 2 groups, and I put one problem on the board for the students. So each group would have to have a leader. That leader would have to send one of their partners to the board, and then work on the problem. So basically, well, I got a really good feedback for that because they were working like on pressure. So like it's similar like when you're doing a test, like you have a lot of pressure. So they only had like 2 or 3 minutes to do the problems, and that really helped them like before review, like before a test, like to review. And things that are not working well are the activities. They don't like to do the activities. They really like to work on the board. So when I try to do activities, they don't want to do that.
What do you mean by activity?
Like when I want to put students on pairs or like 3 or 4 students and like maybe read the book a little bit for definitions and properties and stuff, they don't want to do that. So.
Okay, that's good to know because you guys that are in the lower level math, it's a population that they've had difficulties for a long time in their life. That's pretty much it. And so we have to play psychologists a little bit and kind of figure out. I'm gonna do a little homework on that because like you have a majors, you have like people that are like specialty or you're already over here in terms of levels. But then when you just start, how to get to that point, it takes a lot of work. And so I have some homework to do.
And I think sometimes it's hard to do the activities too because like last week and one of the on Wednesday we covered 3 sections. So to do activities for 3 sections, it takes a lot of time.
Like different content, you mean?
Well, it's the same, kind of the same thing, but it's just it's a little bit different. So to cover like 3 sections in one SI section, like I think it's a lot.
do you want to cover 3 sections?
Well, no, I usually do 2, but
Do
then
you-
I get behind if I don't.
Do you think that working on the difficult stuff is better than going through
The pro-
every single
Yeah,
one?
the problem with that is that if they don't, sometimes they don't get the beginning. So if they don't get that, they're so confused with the most difficult stuff. So that's why.
I agree with that.
That's why I always try to do like one problem, one easy problem, and then I move to the next section and then to the next section. Because if I do just the most difficult ones, then they're confused and they don't. And sometimes on quizzes, like if I don't do the easy stuff, they get that wrong because they never practice that, even though it's easy.
Right, because you gotta get the foundation no matter
Yeah.
what, right? Like you gotta do the arithmetic. If you can't do the
Yeah.
arithmetic, you can't get from point A to point B. Okay, I gotta do some homework because I know that there's SI programs for lower math levels or for basic skills, and I think those are good. That's all good, really good information.
I kind of had something like that happening last semester where it was taking a lot longer to go over material, given the amount of time had in the SI session. And I had to just bluntly tell the students, you're not going fast enough. We need to have this, and this done. You need to either come in here with a spread up or be prepared to do this on your own. But let them know the reality of how fast the course goes and how much time they need to put in. I actually sat down with one student and we threw up his whole weekly schedule on the board. How many hours are in a week? How many hours do you spend sleeping? How many hours do you spend traveling? And what's left over after everything important? You know, you gotta sleep, you gotta eat, you gotta be in class. If you need to work, you need to go to work. You gotta spend time with family. You gotta travel. So, and then we looked at how many hours were left over. And then you tell them, okay, you need to put about 3 hours per unit that you're taking. You're taking 14 units. What's 3 times, 14? So that needs to come out. So that's giving you 5 hours free time for the week. Showing them the importance of time management in your schedule so they can get a real idea of what college is. Because if it's just, I study these hours and whatnot, they don't see how much college takes out of their weekly schedule.
That's very good. All right, guys, you guys, this is really helpful, at least for me. All right.
Has Lenny gone?
What?
Has
Oh,
everyone gone?
I think so, right? I think everybody went.
Okay.
Do you want to go? What's going well enough?
I'm getting more appointments. That's going well.
All right, so I think we gotta do this really quickly, but we have to do this. So do you guys have to be somewhere? Yes, I know, my stomach is growling. We gotta do essay program evaluation. So we have evaluations for you guys to evaluate the program. And so what I really